The following podcast is improvised satire and all characters are fictional.
Hello, dear listener. I'm Dean Ardenfell, and this is Corporations Are People Too, the podcast where I interview employees of the many subsidiaries of my favorite multinational conglomerate, Hogswood-Cooper Media. My first guest is a senior pilot for Above It All, the luxury jet service that whisks the corporate elite from place to place in its modern, state-of-the-art charter planes. Their never-ask policy means they can move people or goods all over the world, no matter the obstacle. On weekends, he gives amateur haircuts in his garage. Please welcome Pete Whiffspoon. Hey, Pete.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
Absolutely. I wasn't sure you were done with that sentence.
No, I appreciate it.
I want to make sure I give you the full...
It's a wonderful thing.
Sure. Sure. You're done with the sentence now, though.
Yes.
Great, cool. So I just want to ask what it's like to be, what is it, 30,000 feet in the air all the time, whisking these VIPs around?
Roughly 25,000 to 32,000 feet is where we operate most of our flights. And it is an enjoyable job to have. And really enjoy working with some interesting people and some really fun and interesting stories happen up in the sky.
I'm sure. And I want you to obviously, share as many as you can with us, but also I know you have a real strict confidentiality clause because these people are important people.
If I could tell you some of the stories, I absolutely would. Unfortunately, we do sign many NDAs, which means non-disclosure agreements.
Oh, I see.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this might be a short interview. I'm not sure. So you
I can talk a lot about the haircuts that I do in my garage.
We'll get to that for sure. Yeah, that's usually I like to add like a little hobby because I like to hear about people's personal lives, and generally doesn't take up the majority of the interview. But I'm more interested in what you're doing for Hogswood-Cooper and specifically the Above It All private jet service. What happens when a billionaire decides, you know what, I don't want to be in New York anymore. I want to be somewhere else. They're going to call your service up and you're going to be there. And just doesn't matter what the obstacle is. You can get them there no matter what, yeah?
No matter the hour, no matter the weather, we are always ready to fly. And that means that I have to be ready to fly at any given moment.
Really? So that must be a heck on your sleep schedule, huh?
It really is. It really takes a few of the Z's out of it.
And what happens when you're super tired, maybe you haven't slept at all, and then someone wants you to do a cross, the Atlantic flight or something?
Well, Above It All has a no testing policy when it comes to narcotics or stimulants of any kind. I like to do a rough cocktail of a 5-hour energy mixed with about 1.5 grams of cocaine. And the hardest part is keeping it in my nose for as long as possible.
Okay, so that's a cocktail that you snort, and the cocaine is some kind of plant, I'm assuming, that keeps you awake for a long time.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about that part of it, but
you're essentially a long-haul truck driver in that sense, yeah?
In a lot of ways, from your lips to God's ears.
Sure.
And,
well, you're a little closer to God than most people, huh?
It's like a NETI pot, really. The 5-hour energy goes in and it comes out.
So it's
and some of the
a full cycle of the sinuses almost.
It is, yeah. It's a flush, if you will.
Interesting. So, and famously, it's not just human beings you're traveling around. Sometimes someone in the middle of the night will say, get this suitcase from here to Italy or something.
There can be suitcases. There can be people. There can be animals, vegetation, cocaine. Often, I joke with my co-pilot, the junior pilot. I'm the senior pilot.
I see.
And I will joke with him that in a lot of ways, we are high-end sex traffickers.
Oh, wow.
Legal, of course. Everything's above board. Paperwork is all signed.
And when you say above board, I mean, I assume, well, there could be a pun there, but I'm assuming with the backing of Hogswood-Cooper Media, which is just an enormous, resource for you. I'm assuming that any kind of fines that you might have to pay, it's almost like you can make something that would be illegal for anyone else, legal by just throwing money at the fines.
And that's an area of the job that I'm not too familiar with. The paperwork is sort of the home office. I just keep the bird in the sky.
Yeah, you and
The junior.
The junior co-pilot there.
Yeah, R.I.P. Recently passed.
I hadn't heard.
He recently passed. One of the more exotic animals got out of a cage over, I believe, Bogota, and it was messy.
Okay.
For sure.
So it must have been a large and dangerous animal.
I really can't disclose. Let's just say that we got one back for those magicians in Las Vegas for Siegfried and Roy. Let's just say, tick one up on the old board for humans one more time.
So infamously, Siegfried and Roy were attacked by a tiger. And I fail to see how humans are up one on that if your co-pilot was killed by another wild animal.
We took 2 down.
You took 2 down. Okay, I see. It's a 1 out, 2 in policy, or 1 out, 1 in, 2 out.
Again, that's home office. I'd have to refer you to
but
the
someone's
home office.
keeping score as to wild animals versus humans.
Someone is definitely keeping score on the old scoreboard. And I apologize. I know I'm not too energetic for a radio program.
Oh, no.
But
you got a great radio voice, though.
Originally, I wasn't even going to be a pilot. I was not. It's not a passion of mine.
Really?
Haircuttery is a passion of mine, and again, I'd love to talk about that at some point.
Sure, and we'll definitely get to that.
No, I was working in the home office, and doing some number crunching for the folks, and the CEO was coming through. It was a big deal, and he heard my voice, and he said, "That is a pilot's voice."
Wow!
And so he just moved me right over to the aviation department, or wing, if you will, if you're a pun maker. And I'm not. And so I really just sort of jumped into this field voice first. It's just a natural thing for me to be in the skies.
Do you think that happens a lot in the aviation industry, that people fall into that career voice first?
Please, we don't like to say fall into the career.
Oh, sure. Well, falling upwards, as it were. Yeah. Oh, we found something that made you laugh.
I'm having a laughing fit right now.
Yeah, you're almost out of control. Yeah, for you anyway.
I'm losing it. I'm absolutely losing it. My wife would say, "Calm down."
Is there any chance that you is that the cocktail that you've been neti potting over the years?
Neti potting is a different thing altogether. And sometimes when we're in the sky, you're doing a particularly long haul flight, is what we refer to those as, and you don't have access to the bathroom. And in the case of my co-pilot, R.I.P., I was not able to go into the back part of the plane at all. And so you do use a neti potty in those cases.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I guess my question, we keep getting derailed. I'm not sure how. Did you keep a calm head when that was happening with the wild animal?
Absolutely. You have to keep a calm head because you're in a big metal tube in the clouds and doing what man was never meant to do. And our hubris has allowed us to build machines that just soar through the air. And then we go up there and, we sleep. We watch Netflix.
Oh, you do?
We go to the bathroom.
Autopilot.
We masturbate.
So do you do those things, or just the
that would be passengers. That would be a lot of passenger-based activity. I can honestly say I have never taken care of myself in that way on a flight.
I see. Well,
yeah.
I mean,
runway is a different story, but
not a lot of rules, it seems, this company has for you, but it would seem that not masturbating in the cockpit.
Being flexible, I think, is important with the clientele that
physically
we have.
Or
sometimes flexible physically. Often we have one client in particular. I won't say who. I will only say that this person has a habit of, let's say, buying companies and tanking them. And I remember saying, I can't tell you who it was, but, and I said, Mr. Musk, do you really need me to do a human pyramid? And he said, yes, and I want you on top.
Wow.
And so we did it. Being flexible is very important, but keeping an even, calm head at all times, no matter the case, is very important. I remember when my co-pilot was ripped to shreds, kept an even keel, We tranked the tigers.
Oh, okay.
Shouldn't have said that.
That's all right. We can cut that out.
You'll edit. You have editors that cut and clip.
Absolutely.
And then we did a quick burial in the sky, and moved on from there. And we got to the airport in record time.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask on behalf of my listeners how you bury someone in the sky.
Are you familiar with a burial at sea?
Sure. That's when they sort of like toss you down the gangplank in a bag.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, beautiful process that they do burial at sea when someone dies on a ship.
Yeah.
In all of history, and it could be an admiral of a ship that passes, and they'll all stand on the edge of the boat, and then showing highest regard for a person that has passed, they tip a body over the edge.
Right, but
that's it.
But the risk of that body striking anything else is very low once it goes into the water, and I would imagine doing the same with a body at 20,000 feet might be different.
Well, the trick there is by the time it hits the ground, we're pretty far away, and no one is the wiser ultimately.
Okay, plausible deniability.
I can honestly say there's never been, and also it's a very rare thing that we have to do.
Okay.
There are not a lot of burials.
That's probably why I haven't heard of burials at Sky.
And often I think it creates a fun story. Multiple urban legends had been based on burials in the sky.
Huh.
The old adage of it got kind of twisted up. One of the most famous burials in the sky is the scuba diver that was scooped up by a fire plane and dropped in the air.
From Magnolia.
Yes.
From the beginning of Magnolia.
And speaking of Magnolia, we've had a few stars of Magnolia.
Oh, really?
On some of our jets.
Wow.
I can't say who.
No.
I can't say who. Don't push me on this.
I don't picture Tom Cruise flying private, but
what do you picture him doing?
Well, he's usually standing out on the wing of the plane.
I picture Tom Cruise simply going into a field and shouting into the sky until he starts floating. I think that's what Tom Cruise would do.
With those Thetans, you can do almost anything.
We've had a couple of Thetans on the plane.
Speaking of people with no soul, man, this conversation, I thought before we got to the haircuts, we wouldn't have anything to talk about.
Here we go with the haircuts.
But it sure seems like we've covered a lot of ground.
If you call 202-599-7444, you can leave a voicemail for an appointment at one of my garages. I have 2 garages where I do, so I'm franchising. It's my garage in my home, and there's also a garage in San Francisco that is a friend of mine's garage. His car will be there. Don't touch it, but I'll cut your hair.
Oh, wow. Okay. So depending on which coast you're on, I suppose.
As a pilot, you find yourself in many, many places.
Right. And so you'll get right off the plane, get out of your pilot's uniform, go to one of the garages and cut people's hair.
The uniform stays on.
Oh, it does?
It's part of the experience.
So when someone calls a random number and makes an appointment for a haircut and someone
It's not a random number. It's 202.
You don't remember it all?
There's 3 4s.
You walked straight into that one.
Yeah, I did.
So what you're saying though is that I could call a number, make an appointment for this unseen, unreviewed. I couldn't find anything online, no Yelp or anything. Exclusive haircutting place. And when I get there, I'm going to have to ignore the car in the garage and a person.
If you're on the West Coast.
If I'm on the West Coast.
On the East Coast, I clear it out.
And a man in a pilot's uniform is going to show up and say, "How would you like your haircut?"
In a pilot's uniform.
Sure, a pilot in a pilot's uniform. Yes. Not that I would know that necessarily if my hair cutter showed up and you said hair cutting as a verb, and now I'm saying it, but it's really, what is it, a barber, stylist?
I am not a licensed barber. I could not be called a barber.
Okay, so you're calling yourself a hair cutter.
I was told by the state of California that I could not be called a barber.
Okay.
And so I am not. You can simply call me Captain Clippers.
Oh, so
that's it.
So the business does have a name. You have a
no. That's not the name of the business. I can't divulge the name of the business.
Okay, that's your nickname.
That's just sort of a nom de plume I go by
I see.
When I'm doing hair.
Is there anything else that you, any other services that you render? Because it does seem like this might be a place where one would go. I don't know if one were not able to get into a traditional place or not able to afford it, or
this is a bit of a shame. I misunderstood the job title of an esthetician, which is someone who will do nails and they'll do waxing and they'll do, body things.
Okay.
I had been doing some anesthetizing, and so that's anesthetizing.
Yeah. So when someone came in and said you thought they were asking that you to anesthetize them, and they were asking for body.
So I would knock them out chemically, and then try my best to wax and to get the cuticles. I didn't even know where the cuticle was.
I gotta say, like, if I were given the option to go under for a waxing, maybe I'd take it.
A few of my clientele have requested it again, and I have told them when I can get access to another veterinary clinic, I will absolutely do that for you.
Wow.
But
well, you've got a bit of a catch me if you can kind of lifestyle. I'm sure in another city you'll find another vet. Wow.
If only.
Made
if
you laugh
only.
Again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I never know when it's coming.
I'm sorry. I'm a real in the piloting community. I'm a real card. I'm a wild card. I'm a bit of a Sam Kinison in the piloting community.
Wow, what a reference. Well, this is
Are you familiar with Sam Kinison?
I know the name. Yeah, he's a comedy guy, right?
He's a comedian, yes.
Okay.
And I just found out recently he passed.
Yeah, it was a while ago, I thought.
Was it?
Yeah, I think he
boy.
I think he had a bit of a neti pot problem as well.
He was a bit of a neti head. Yeah, he was a neti head for sure. Yes.
Well, this has been fascinating. I have to go to my second guest here. If you'll stick around, I would love to have you back toward the end of our conversation.
For sure. Right? There are other comedians. I have fun tales about that. I did not sign an NDA with Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, good. Well,
so
we'll
I
talk
can tell
about
you
that.
about the underage girls that he had me.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to put you
get some water there.
I'll put you in a holding pattern if that's all right with you.
I'll do the piloting too.
Great. Well, folks, my second guest today has a load of something she wants to bring to your next party. We're going to find out what that means. But first, let's pause and hear a quick word from our sponsor. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Pete Withspoon. I am a senior pilot for Above It All private jets. Are you someone with a great deal of money? You might need our services at Above It All Pilot Private Jets. And I've been told it's not pilot private jets, it's just private jets. We will take you wherever, whenever. We will ask little to no questions. I think the last flight I had, the only question we asked was, do you want that in the seat next to you, or do you want me to put that above you? And they told us that it was a child. We have no problem with that. We don't even ask if it's your child. There are no metal detectors. The only thing we ask is that anything that may be explosive, you just put up front with us. So visit a website. I believe I've been told there's a website. You can have any pilot anywhere, and if you're lucky, you may just get to meet me in person. And remember, I'm not just a pilot. I'm also a barber. Not legally, but I will cut your hair. Thank you. I love you.
And we're back. I'd like to remind you at this point, as I do every show, that I, Dean Ardenfell, am not and have never been an employee of Hogswood-Cooper Media or any of its subsidiaries. Okay, we've been talking to Pete Withspoon, charter pilot for Above It All, and now I'd like to bring in my second guest, who works for a totally different subsidiary of Hogswood-Cooper. She is the corporate entertainment facilitator for Funload Limited, which is in the business of making business a load more fun. In her role, she attends corporate retreats and works with teams to facilitate everything from icebreakers to lawn games, murder mystery luncheons to egg races. What a hoot! In her spare time, she enjoys detox challenges. Please welcome Susan Runts.
Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Ardenfell.
Great to have you here. Wow, what a fun thing you do. You get to go create fun for business people on their retreats.
It's thrilling to be involved in changing lives, I think of it as.
Do you really? Does it? You think that really changes people's lives to go in for 2 days and run a couple of exercises with people?
The way we do it, I certainly hope it does.
Wow.
I hope it enriches their lives and just trains them for the atrocities that they might face in the workplace and out of it.
How would some kind of an icebreaker or, a robotics challenge or a sack race or something prepare them for the atrocities of business life?
Oh, great. Well, we really like to bring out the competition.
Oh, I see.
I think a lot of corporations are hoping to bring out in their employees. And it's life and death, you might say,
I see. So you really lean into the competitive nature of business, and instead of some of these wishy-washy team building things where they're trying to get you all to get along, you pit them against each other in some kind of like death match kind of thing.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to form those teams because that's the only way you'll survive.
So they might go back from the weekend and like accounting
is gone. Yeah.
Oh, it's gone. I didn't. Oh, wow. So this is truly
very much just like weeding out the riffraff, for lack of a better way of putting it. Yeah, it's fun for sure.
Sure.
Some people are having just so much fun, but it's a lot of us helping corporations to downsize in an inventive and productive way, honestly. So.
Interesting. I mean, it seems like you're sort of circling around a euphemism here. Are you pitting people against each other in a battle to the literal death, like in the woods at their retreat kind of thing?
No one is technically dying. We don't use real firearms. I mean, they are real, but the bullets are just rubber and
rubber bullets.
The ammunition is mostly tranquilizers and things like that. So no one is actually dead at the end of the retreat, but those people don't generally want to go back to the workplace after having
So
an
when you
experience
say
like that.
the accounting department may be gone, you don't mean dead and gone. You mean they woke up after being tranked in the woods and decided they didn't want to work for the company anymore.
Exactly,
Wow.
Mr. Ardenfell. Yes, they weed themselves out, really.
I see. I see. Well, that's, there's so many just wimps, and especially in this day and age, like there's so many cucks working for different departments and stuff. You got to get rid of all those weak people so you can have a strong company.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, because I was homeschooled myself and an only child, I have a lot of experience being sad. And so I really can sense that in other people.
Really?
And it helps me very quickly figure out who the targets are for every retreat that we host.
Interesting.
Sure.
So, I mean, I do get the sense that like, if you were to work for a company like this, you wouldn't last very long, but in a position of power, when you have, you can pit these people against one another, you probably are able to see, because you've been, sitting at that cafeteria table your whole life, you can pick and you can just, who's going to make it and who's not.
Yeah, when you're not socializing verbally, your brain really spirals, and you can really develop that muscle. And sometimes in a way that benefits you very productively. If I hadn't been sitting alone, as you put it, at the cafeteria, I may not have learned so much about just manhunting and survival, really.
Yeah, right. I mean, you were in a situation where you had to do things to socially survive, and now you're putting people in situations where they have to do things to literally survive, or at least
mentally. They assume they will be dead, and then they I'm sure very thankful that that's not the case. But we do sort of set them up so that they have that fear.
So do they have? This must have a structure. This isn't just let them into the woods with guns with rubber bullets and whoever's last man standing. There must be some structure to these.
No, and
activities.
sometimes, it's not even, a hunt in the woods. We branch out, and sometimes it's pick the right cup. One of them has the poison in it,
Wow.
and so there's a lot of different kind of ways of playing with human thought.
Yeah.
Right. But we grow a lot, we grow from trauma, I think. So
interesting. It's interesting that the name of your company is Funload Limited, and that your whole business model is trauma.
But yes.
Yeah. It sounds like you're loading them up with trauma.
But, when you can overcome something so surreal like that, I think there's a fun in it. There's a fun in that.
I suppose,
sort of victory.
if you've done a LARPing event and you come out on top, then there's a fun element of that. But yeah, if you heap a bunch of trauma, it really should be called trauma load. And then
we thought about it, but unfortunately, not as many folks were using our services.
It wouldn't test well. Yeah,
it did not test well. Yeah, we ran through a number of different names. Murderville.
Well, that's a show
survival, that was sort of the problem too. Was a lot of we faced that
copyright
was already out there, so we had to do our own thing.
So, and you enjoy a good detox challenge. What does that mean?
Oh yes. Well, I think just to mentally prepare for the kind of work that I'm doing in the office, for lack of a better, really it's the forest and different retreat locations. But I think depriving myself of food in different ways really helps to stimulate that need for survival and killer instinct kind of. So, I'll duct tape up my food and lock it in a room with a, wild animal or something, just to really make me have to work for the things I need to survive. And it's great. Goodness. It really works for me.
It sounds incredible. It sounds exciting. There does seem to be a lot of connection points here between my two guests, because I don't know, you both have very exciting jobs.
Thank you very much.
And you both have wild animal connections. Apparently, one of you has had a wild animal on their plane, and the other one has used that to
a number of scenarios.
Keep you away from your food. Yeah,
we've actually we've met before. I don't know if you remember, but we did one of your retreats or a portion of it, and I was the pilot. There was a zero gravity choking game that was happening.
Wow,
he did wonderfully. Honestly, worlds above the other pilot. I won't call them your co-pilot, because obviously that wasn't the scenario.
But yeah, there's so a lot of come up, and then immediate drop.
So you're talking about the zero-G plane, where if you go up at a steep enough angle and then go down at a steep enough angle, then you're temporarily weightless.
It gives you the impression of zero gravity.
Right. And then,
but it is not. You are plummeting to your death until I pull up on that stick.
Sure. But at that moment, there was a choking component.
We like to add that element
like a
in.
Game kind of thing.
Yeah,
it was. Game.
Yeah, it was just brief. How quickly can we get them to pass out, and then add that extra level of fear, because already that's a high stakes situation. But
now, Pete, were you the person in control of the plane also unconscious?
Yes.
You were. So it was
I was doing the pass out game with my then co-pilot, RIP as well.
Oh, a different one.
I won the game, and so. And I wanted to ask a quick question while you were being interviewed by this gentleman, Dean. First time I'm meeting you. You seem like a lovely man.
Oh, thank you. Please.
Anytime you want a haircut.
My podcast is your podcast. Go ahead.
Well, as I said then, please dial 202. And
we'll punch the number in later.
On the Chiron.
Sure.
But you had said you were a homeschooled student.
I was. Yes.
But then you said you sat alone at the cafeteria.
I should have picked up on that.
Did your family have a cafeteria?
Oh, yes. We had actually an entire school. It was
this is fascinating.
Yeah.
A homeschool
in a school.
It was a school. It was I believe it was abandoned in 1930s, and my parents bought it, and that's
so they had the old Mac computers then. With
wow.
the clamshell.
Yeah, it was a very antiquated system for sure, and it was just me in that building with my dad, who was my tutor.
So you weren't being socially ostracized in the lunchroom, because there was no one else.
It was
in the
a lot
lunchroom.
of purposeful isolation from more of my parents, I suppose, than my peers.
Emotional abuse is what it is.
More emotional abuse from them.
Are your parents still alive? I feel like we might need to.
No, that's actually one of the opportunities we also have to facilitate with our events at Funload. They are dead. They are both dead mysteriously. And one of the team building exercises that you can do is a murder mystery where you try to solve their disappearance.
Your parents' murders?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Just specifically your parents' murder?
My parents' murder specifically.
Has anyone ever done it?
No. No one's come close.
I think that's it, right?